Today we are going to discuss about a generalist and a specialist. Okay, this is by the Riyaj Ahmed. This is generalist and specialist are two broad function category. They play important role for rendering the advice to the political executive, policy making, implementing the policy. The contemporary administration has become a more specialist, technical, and hence require different type of the person with necessary skill and knowledge and discharge the function. The controversy between them two are, however, age old. Still, one of the fiery fought out the issue of this. There is urgent need for the reform and overhauling the bureaucratic system. A number of ways are discussed to bring about a change with regard to the every problem. This paper deal with the particular problem of Indian administration, which is the systematic problem, which also has a psychological to it and more overt reform on the particular issue. So, which are to understand the part of wide exercise of administrative reform. This issue was in between the Indian Administrative Service and, in other words, the journalists and specialists. So, introduction of these two services. First is the generalist. Generalist specialists are the two broad functions. They play an important role for the rendering the advice to the political executive with regard to the policy making and implementing. The contemporary administration has become more specialized and technical, so different type of person with the necessary skill, knowledge, qualities. The controversy between of two are the age old. We can see like public administration in 1958. Fezler was recorded the revival of this controversy in England. And 1968 में Fulton Committee of Civil Service was issue of fresh and provoked debate. Today, generally specialist controversy a serious problem. It has emerged as a noting internal problems also, as evident from the dangerously mounting frequency and the intensity agitation on the part of various groups. Specialists, especially they are the engineers and doctors. And the thorny issue of the controversy is whether democratic setup, the policy formulation is done by the journalist, and alternatively, would it not better if the political executive exercised by two parallel hierarchy of one specialist guide the technical point. Another journalist is to acquest it with the public reaction to whatever policy that under consideration. The urgent need for the reforms of the bureaucratic system. A number of ways have been discussed for bringing out the changes. So, statement paper deal with the peculiar problem of Indian administration, which is inherently a systematic problem, which also has a psychological inclinations, and we need a reform in a particular issue. So, which are to undertake a part of wide exercise of administrative reform. The issue between this was Indian administrative service, in other words, between the journalist specialist within the administration, which needs a reform and process of globalization. There is a merit and demerit gained by this. Hence, what could be need necessity for this reform? Make the Indian civil service more accountable, people friendly. So, to understand the analyzing the journalist specialist, to discuss the evaluate the various recommendations made by the committees and commission, to outline the brief suggestion method and solution. Method and solution. So, analyzing this study, Indian administration today is the shift from the British. Empirical power of the British felt that need have been the system or group of the people help them in the administrative search of country. They also wanted to overcome the language cultural barrier. Therefore, education system like Lord Macaulay ka report है. This education provided European history, society, polity, Christian morality, and which were presented highest quality of Indian history. So this way of British produced men who were Indian by birth but British in outlook of thinking. This men came handy of the British to work in the office. They understood the language and heart of the master and could interact with the native, understand demands of their master. So there was also growing demand from the freedom fighters. British allowed the Indian to appear the British civil service. Later the same was modified by civil service, and that was competitive examination and all that. So understanding what is a journalist and what is a specialist. This is the for today's question. Journalist and specialist. So LD White, journalist is understood mean duties and concern with the formulating of the policy, coordinating and improvement of the government machinery. So the journalists are concerned with the all type of activities like postcode and purely negative sense, the person who is not expert in scientist, that is why often referred somewhat disdainfully the amateur कह सकते हैं all rounder. Prisoners ने भी बोला journalist mean the amateur who has educated in the linguistic poise and leadership, good intuitive judgment, right feeling, broad background, narrow specialized knowledge. But in the positive sense, notion of journalist applicable to the administrator who are called the professional or career administrator. If administration is to regarded as a field of profession as that of the teaching, law of engineering, medicine, in his professional capacity, a journalist possesses the skill technique of manager. As a manager, he is entrusted with the responsibility of getting things done. Second, Hoover Commission USA identified journalists as a senior civil servant or the rank of highly experienced administrative special who has the ability of flexible assignment, capable of functioning essential administrative advice, and this member of the executive administrative who work the policies, coordinate the policy, supervise, control करना. So that is called the journalist. The administrative function of general consists of the two, like first is policy को make करना, execute करना. So administration very largely confine the analysis of coordination and idea proposal relation of political economical condition, expression of the proposal from which they can be assimilated, carry out the government machine. The administration has thus assessed the bring together a large number of different factors of the decision, financial, organizational, perhaps all politician, and then to balance them. So he has reconciled the conflicting interests. But the simplest case journalist is that administration function does not depend on single form of technical expertise. It has no particular qualification, but by virtue of therefore a journalist is amateur. He is a amateur person, and RCS Sarkar observed the professional administration as a fully from the service. As a specialist is the one who has special knowledge and particular field. Specialist government are those who are the required to the post, which is professional, scientist, and technical. So he is the scientist and technical. The qualified specialist, the basis requirement should be the institutional speciality. Institutional speciality that have pre-employment for other technos professional, and that was so distinction between this journalist and the specialist, that was the journalists are recruited by the candidate with a liberal education background, which specialists have been the vocational technical education. The candidate for the journalist position is subject to long written examination, test selection. A specialist is on the basis of performance of the interview. Well, immediately after recruitment, the specialists are put the job. The journalists are to undergo long term of probationary training, and specialists generally spend their entire career their parent departing skills. So, on the other hand, the journalists called the all-rounder concept of the paper is the journalists often move from the one department to the another time by public enterprises of the semi-government institution. The specialists have submitted the finally decision taken by the journalist, an important bearing field of specialization. Not only the specialist plays the inferior position but decision making, but also the matter of the status, emoluments, and prestige. The specialist group are not as per the journalist. In such situation, the very fact of this specialist relegate permanently and subordinate to the journalist, whose distinctive quality is not more than intelligence but greater ignorance about the subject dealing with the specialist. So, what kind of problem with them? What are the arguments in favor of the specialist? The developing countries like India require a scientist, not an administrative outlook. Specialists are considered IAS journalists to a pen pusher bound by the rules and lacking scientific temper. They are also claimed that they have abide by the decision of journalists, but which may they possess a superior knowledge, and therefore they should at a top and not long on the top tap, long on the tap. Okay. So specialist input require tackling the complex technical problems, and they have a very skill expertise and planning and development in the scientific world demand a policy making by the expert. Ministration is future going to be the characterized new development for the science and technology, behavioral science, decision making, human relations, and each of these are required by the professional intervention. New type of the assignment of the civil servant demand a competence not it is can't we go for the academic specialized training we required every sphere of administration, economic, social body of academic required a technical skill, and this intense training relating to particular area will essential for the require the such knowledge, professionalism, ARC, and all that. So it is argued the journalists are unable to assist the minister properly. See, Subramaniam was the former finance minister. Civil servant were unable to assist the minister properly. In the department, the minister is not supposed to be expert, and he is assisted by civil servant for the policy formulation. So the Gupta critically observed the planning commission as battalion and administration with a high academic degree. Their actual role is given by higher bureaucrats. So L.K. Jha had made effort in 1980 to induct the specialist into bureaucratic offering. It is did not work. Academic specialists have not survived for long, and India has a score of outstanding internationally reputed economists. Their contribution to the government, their contribution to the government economic and fiscal policy has been more. On the other hand, IAS top brass have been given the task for looking the economical policies. Public sector industries and electricity board, huge governing cooperation, scientific technological research, almost we gamut of the nation. The political leadership have given the little through what bureaucratic supremacy. It has been aligned many best, brightest product of higher learning. Some of there are the graduates also. Now there is a role of the journalist and the administration, journalist in the administration. So why we are favoring the journalist? This is one of the point. The first foremost argument of the belief the high caliber of the IAS, varied experienced result the posting to diverse variety of the job and performance. Journalists are the view of the technical soundness scheme project not only by the specialist but the my technical soundness not enough. So it is argued that scheme should not only the technically sound but also the examine various point of view, financial and legal implications of this feasibility, political justifiability, and whether it should be acceptable to the parliament. Very often, the department of the government and even the outside of the organization have a consulted. The advisor must know the whole range of the problem, should have ability to look at them entirely, and their relationship between is interconnected. RCC Sarkar, former chairman of the UPSC, right? He must understand the interplay of political, economy, and social factor. Should have a ability to reconcile the conflict of interest and bring together from different field, evolve the policy which will subvert to common good. Even if necessary technical excellence, the policy that finally emerge may be different from each other, and the management, program planning, field administration. Ridley put it thus: the simplest case of the journalist is that the administration function does not depend on the single form of technical expertise, but therefore has no particular qualification. The journalists argue that administration becomes so complex that is required a high degree of managerial skill, including the man management and development into the technique, which can be learned partly training but largely experience over the year. Administration today is such a professional. Keeping in the view the changing pattern of the government, the founding father of the constitution required all India services who is proper the training and experiences and expertise. The gain this knowledge of the condition of the field serving by the subdivision of the district level, and useful for development of the quality coordination, human understanding, man management. So RCS Sarkar, it would be the inappropriate to decide seasons. IAS journalist is amateur. He is the professional administration as fully for the services. So journalists also play a dominant role of the problem solving, important techno professional work, disciplinary work. Journalists administer needed to the articulate the rational, cost effective, most beneficial alternative solutions, and more demanding role of the journalist is that the mediator, the task of the mediator, link between specialists, discovering the limits and trying to pursue them. The good mediator can talk several languages and which professional skill civil servant will easily feel like a home. So the journalist is also argue the effectiveness of technical expert depend on the specialization of the department in the particular field. He know more less and less. His outlook tend to the narrow, but he has an exaggerated notion of the subject and over enthusiastic about his own particular subject. It is necessary not only to coordinate the activities of different departments but also integrate them as to the suggestion including the specialist or make them integral part of the decision making. Ashok Chanda was, but this alternative has been said, and their nature of work and training of technical expert is handicapped for assuming the policy making. So Sarkar submit by the appointment of the eminent surgeon health secretary could will lose his service in the surgeon and he may not also turn out able to the administrator. तो सरकार ने बताया कि अगर आप किसी एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सेक्रेटरी मतलब हेल्थ सेक्रेटरी को अगर अपॉइंट कर रहे हैं तो ही विल नेवर बी गोइंग टू बी लाइक ए सर्जन का एक डिफरेंट वर्क होता है, हेल्थ सेक्रेटरी का एक डिफरेंट वर्क होता है. सो ही वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट द टेक्निकल वर्क एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव वर्क. Both have different knowledge in their particular field. So what is the conclusion? Today India as a journalist IAS officer head of the every department. He is the boss of many specialists working in this department. For example, Director General of Police IPS, but his boss is Home Minister. होम मिनिस्टर किसको हेड कर रहा है? आईपीएस को. A collector who also perform the managerial duties, law and order. About the SP, city police commissioner who is the from the IPS. Similarly, director of the medical and director of the technical education, higher education, director of the archives. All are the technical specialists who are answerable to the journalist IAS officer. Okay, and the technical department like the mines, coal, steel, labor, and broadcasting, defense. They all headed by the IAS. Sidelining the specialist, the IAS bosses many times or rule the technical suggestions, advise the specialist. Service rule also make the discrimination between journalists and specialists. This creates ill feeling between of two. The situation mentioned above is not conducive for the developing welfare country. Rule and power hungry, corrupt, unaccountable. So yes, man subsequent image of Indian bureaucracy need a change by the understanding the drastic system reform and procedure. Need of administrative reform. Following step we can switch for the present system of the French model. A combined recruitment examination, we can go for that. And examination should test specialist knowledge as a subject and medical, economical like diplomacy, agriculture, finance. Along with the paper specialist, there should be a some paper of journalist subject of languages. This will be the created specialist professional service instead of this. New professional service should be henceforth manage this respective department top to bottom. For example, medical professional manage the department of health, family welfare, and economic should be the department of trade. The new professional bureaucrat shall remain the same field of department for the considered 8 to 20. Therefore, the remaining year is still the retirement. So, policy making, as said, there should be a comprehensive training for both of them. And IAS cadre should phase out in the time bound manner. By virtue of this expertise, training, experience, knowledge, their service can be best utilized, and the present IAS cadre can be managed by the field from the top to bottom. There is a suggestions. The question of the personal policy, including the placement, promotion, transfer, fast track, and basis for the forward-looking career policy technique, should be managed by the autonomous personal boards assisting by the political authority. Such civil service boards should be constituted under the statutory provision. They should be expected to function the UPSC, reputed management and institution of management well known for their excellence should be included. Provide the broad-based pull. Social audit of official working would be another way of accountability. So there should be additional taking of an oath loyalty and should swear abide by the basic principle of good governance would give the renewed sense of commitment for the basic of the constitution. Policy and procedure will not come under the initiative. So a need for combined effort of the political activities and academic civil society to generate the pressure for the change. There is a general feeling of the bureaucrats immune from the punishments, and Article 311 have practiced shield the guilty against the swift of the sudden punishment for public officers. Major corollary has like erosion of accountability. So commission feel that necessary revisit the constitutional safeguard to ensure that honest and efficient officers given the requisite protection and dishonest are not allowed for the office, and comprehensive examination of entire corpus is necessary. According to the commission, present method of evaluating the performance need a drastic reform, and the result of this we need a civil servant regulation need to be changed radically in the light of contemporary administrative theory, introduce modern evaluation methodology. Another way is the innovative suggestion. The professional body like institution of engineer, chartered accountant, and medical council, bar council, which could be have a played a vital role in civil service governance, and this benefits the constitutional but not much else beyond the self interest. Thus, the commission is a view that the professional organization should also be revamped, help the reinforcing the civil servant rather than merely the lobbying. So this is all about the journalists and specialists की क्या problem है, what kind of administrative reforms we needed,